Yo, what's good? Welcome to Observing the Process. Before we start, I'm hoping you can help me out by supporting the show. You can rate and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and like this video, or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my website. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. Today on the show, I had Eric Alexander. Eric is a comedian based here in Shanghai. We talk about how Eric found his way into stand-up and our relationships with skateboarding. Please give it up for Eric Alexander.
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion too?
Or do magic.
Well, it's easy if you try.
3, 2, 1. Okay, we're live. Eric, how are you doing? Thanks for coming over.
I'm great. Thanks a lot for having me. It's really exciting for me.
Hell yeah, man. Just the other day I saw, I think on WeChat or Instagram or something, you won what's called the Tokyo Roast Battle.
Yeah.
So what is that? Like, first of all, explain to people what a roast battle is, because I follow it on Comedy Central. I know it's super vicious. So I'm curious, like, what the style was for when you did it.
Yeah. I haven't watched that stuff on Comedy Central so much, but like I'm told it's the same format. And it's like, if anyone hasn't seen anything like that before, I'd say it's a lot like a rap battle, but you're rapping and you take turns. Yeah. Like you and an opponent will just go up and take turns, like a tit for tat exchange.
Right.
And this one had like a more intense format. It was 3 rounds, 5 jokes each. First round, second round, 1 minute. Just hammer your opponent for 1 minute until the clock runs out. And then third round, another tit for tat. So it was like a 30-minute affair or something. It lasted all night. Yeah.
Is this something you had to get invited to, or like open mic style, or?
Yeah, I definitely got invited to this one because we had a tournament here in Shanghai that started like months ago. We had like a few roast battles at a few like random events like in January and February, like when we first started doing it here. And then another guy, Dan Russell, he was living here and now lives in Chengdu. He got interested in making a tournament with like brackets and an actual trophy, like a real champion at the end.
Yeah. And
so they made it happen really quick because people were going to be going away soon. So like in a very short amount of time, we had like a bunch of roast battle events, and I won the tournament. I came out at the end with this like flame trophy. It looks like a giant fire that you hold. It actually looks like a chicken wing actually when you're holding it.
Maybe I'll use it for the teaser for the podcast. People will know what I'm talking about, what you're talking about.
Yeah. I got some pics of me with the flame, with the big fire trophy. Yeah. It's pretty dope.
That's what's awesome. Is it a pretty tight knit community that does this? Or like you guys friends afterwards, or was it a lot of people coming in from all over?
Yeah. So, JJ Walkrat is the guy who puts on these events in Tokyo. And when he found out that I took the Shanghai title, he was like, you got to come to Tokyo and battle our local champ. And he got me the contact info for this guy. And the guy started hitting me up months before the battle. And he was really into it, really active. And I really like that because he wanted to make it a great show. So, I mean, the deal is you both just give each other basic info, or whatever info you think might make it interesting for each other to write on.
Oh, yeah. You got to give your opponent a little something like to go off of and make it a better show in a sense.
Exactly. Otherwise, just give me a boring show, right? And then it's going to be very like superficial disses, but it's way more fun. Like, when guys know stories about my high school life or about like my previous endeavors before China or stuff like that. And so the guy was really cool because he gave me a lot of info. I traded info with him. We were checking up with each other before the battle. We actually became friends. And when we got there, we were shaking hands, having a good time. It was a bit weird between us at first.
Is this the first time you meet this guy? Or?
It was my first time meeting this guy.
So all of a sudden you have to go to this guy and just like talk so much shit about him.
Oh,
the
so
first
much
night
shit.
You're meeting him.
Yeah, man. Like this was like the longest I've ever talked to somebody on the internet who I haven't met. Like since I first discovered the internet, I mean, like months of talking.
That's so funny because like so many people really get into that. Like back in the day, MySpace days, or when I'm growing up in middle school and the internet is like relatively new, people really got into talking to random people and like for months at a time and never having intention to meet them. I was never into that. That was always such a weird concept to me.
Yeah.
And then now, like, I actually am a little more like okay with it with, you know, the Instagram that I have. I enjoy, you know, from fans that like DM me and I talk to them. It's an interesting experience. So it's kind of cool that you eventually did it.
Yeah. I wish I had more Instagram people hitting me up. That'd be exciting. just guys who want to diss me. Just guys who want to ruin my life so far. That's where we're at.
That's too funny. And I actually silly didn't realize it was actually in Tokyo. For some reason, I was thinking it was just called the Tokyo Roast Battle.
Oh,
so this is awesome. This adds a whole new level of fucking hype to it for me.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even really explain it that thoroughly to you beforehand. I mean, yeah, it was the Tokyo title, and
that's crazy, man. Tokyo.
Well, the funny thing is, like, you know, the whole comedy scene in this part of the world is, you know, very much in its early development stages. Like, you know, it doesn't have like the long history that they do, of course, back home, or in other Western countries, and so. It's kind of amateur. I mean, not to take anything away from it, but like, you know, it's this is the first time they've had something like this.
Right.
The first time that there's been someone who could call themselves a champ in Shanghai, and
that's
someone,
amazing.
Yeah, and so this guy JJ who put on the event did an amazing job, amazing event. Great production. He billed it as like the East Asia champ title. So like, I'm not going to make a huge deal out of that, but this is technically what they are calling it.
But it is super cool because comedy is still in like the infancy of its livelihood, as you could say, I guess, for China and Asia in general. So that's kind of something I wanted to talk to you about, is just like comedy in general in Asia, because it seems like I had Andy Curtin on before, and he seems like he's pretty established like in the comedy scene in China. He had some stories to tell, and I was just curious your perspective on like comedy in Asia. Like, do you think it's relatively new here? Do you know much of the history, or?
Well, yeah. When it comes to history, I think Andy must have given you a pretty rich account, because I think he was like one of the first people to like start a club here. One of the first expats to, you know, get a community going, a comedy community going. And so I do believe that it is very, very new here. I'm not even sure exactly how many years ago it was when Andy started doing comedy here, but compared to a place like, you know, England or the US, big comedy cities like Chicago, LA, New York, like this city is, it's a little zygote.
It's just tiny. Yeah. It's amazing how much history those other, like, I listen to Joe Rogan and he talks about, he has famous comedians on his podcast all the time about, they tell stories about like starting up in Boston, and, you know, like it's such a different scene here. Starting up here, like, because one of the interesting things that Andy said is that expats were just kind of happy to have any scene whatsoever, whether they were professional or not, just they were happy to have anyone doing comedy like in any skill level whatsoever. So when you were coming up, did you feel encouraged, or did you like, what was that like?
I felt that what you just described, it was, because I feel like, you know, like living in Shanghai as an expat, you connect so quickly with people who are also from Western places or places even outside of China, you know, because you all have this common experience of being an expat, and you can get along pretty easily. Right? And I feel like that translates into comedy, because when you go up there and you start talking about, you know, how ridiculous your life is, that you can't even get a taxi, and you can't understand stuff, and your life is absurd because you can't adjust to the culture or something like that. That makes it easier to connect with audiences when you're first starting out. So I think that it did feel pretty welcoming, like when you go in and try it. I mean, as long as you're not being a dick about it. Obviously, there are guys who go up there and are like, China's stupid, and I'm so smart, and Chinese people are annoying, and what's up with these guys? Like, don't do that shit. Like, don't be a fucking douche. But yeah, I think that expat crowds, because they are the main crowds who come to these things, they enjoy seeing an expat go up and share their experience. So
maybe we could take it back even further. Like, what drove you to get into comedy? Was the first time you ever did it in China, or did you do it other places? Or
yeah, it was here the first time I did it, actually. And it's funny, like, I always thought it'd be cool. I always thought like it'd be so much fun to do.
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, no, that looks really hard, or I don't know if I could do that, or I don't even know what I would say if I wanted to do that. But what really made it happen was that I met someone here who actually did comedy.
Okay.
Like I met a new friend at a house party of all places. And it was the first time I'd ever actually known someone who was doing comedy actively, someone who I could be friends with. And so then it was like, shit, I'll come to a show and watch you. And then like you're going to open mics and you're like, I could do that. Right? Like that's totally how it got started. And then I just talked myself into it over a couple months. And that's how I got into it. I mean, I totally bombed at first, and that's kind of supposed to
So do you remember
happen,
the exact, like the first time you got up on stage? Probably an open mic, has to be an open mic. Everyone's first time has to be an open mic. It's not like they book someone who's never done comedy before.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, right? So it's an open mic and you get up and like, do you remember how it went? Like, did you have this rush? Like for me, the way I picture it, I've never done an open mic, but the closest thing I could imagine to it is like, I used to wrestle in high school.
Oh, sick.
And like, I always just get this tremendous feeling of anxiety. Like the minutes leading up to getting it's only one-on-one. So it's like, it's very little things going around you. And it's kind of similar, I guess you're on stage, just one of you, it's me one-on-one versus another person. And there's so many eyes locked in on you, just you and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I had tremendous like nerves and butterflies, I guess, in your stomach. So I'm wondering if like that's how you felt. And
yeah, totally, man. I get that all the time. Yeah. I get so nervous before shows that like I hate it when people want to like talk to me, like when I'm like hanging out.
Yeah.
Even if I know exactly what I'm going to do, I'm always just like, oh God, let me go on. But I think like once I'm up there, I feel pretty normal. But
I could totally relate to that. I imagine it's a feeling kind of not maybe of like OCD, just kind of like I want to be in my own headspace. Like the minutes or maybe even half an hour leading up to something. Like if I'm just comparing it to wrestling. That's the closest thing I have. And like, I just want to be completely in my own zone and like have no expectations or like a need to talk to anyone else.
Yeah. I get anxious because I'm like, maybe I'm going to forget what to say. Like, do I know what I'm going to say? And I'll just go over it and just, lame stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that I just like get in my own head about. And the first time I went up, I was prepared. Like I knew what I was going to say, but just my jokes were so shit. I had like these dumb ideas that like, I think I later developed them into jokes that worked okay. But it was, it was a huge like wake up call, a huge learning experience. Cause you're like, this is so funny. And you go up, you're like, fuck, this isn't funny at all.
Well, I think what's interesting to talk about now, like after you explain that, you're like, from what I hear about other comedians explaining their process, they go through the exact same thing every single time they're starting new material. The way I like have followed people's careers or understand how it works for some comedians, like on the professional level, they start out with stuff, it's just written down on paper, and then they have to try it out in front of crowds and work it out. And it's not a fully formed joke yet. And so where I want to go with this is a lot of comedians today are getting kind of maybe in trouble for stuff they say when they're trying to work stuff out. And people don't understand that comedians are kind of like just throwing a dart at the board and trying to see what's funny, what's not. Like maybe you can speak a little bit to that if you relate or if you followed what some of the stuff that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most famous case of that you and I are probably both thinking of is Louis C.K. getting in huge trouble for making a joke about the Parkland school shooting.
Sure. Yes. That's it. Yeah.
When he was, at like a small club doing a set where he was supposedly working out material. It wasn't a set that was supposed to be broadcast to a huge audience. And then he got in huge shit for it. I mean, like, I can't really speak on that much because I can understand why people would be upset, but I can also understand like the other comedian's argument that you shouldn't judge him for what he's saying and the set like that. But yeah, I mean, I've never been in a situation where someone said something at an open mic and I thought, I'm judging you. Yeah.
Right. Well,
like some people say dumb shit, really dumb shit, but I won't be like, the world needs to know about what you said.
Yeah.
I just feel like you're an idiot.
I just feel like I'm of the strong opinion that like a place like an open mic or a comedy club is a space to be uninhibited. You like not say anything, like you can't say anything wrong. Like if you're being blatantly racist, I guess that's for sure that's wrong. But it's just such an interesting thing that people will come down on you so hard, and I guess in a sense be taking stuff out of context, because Louis was not trying to do something that was seen by a major group of people. He's just trying to work out the crowd and, maybe develop that into something that could be a funny joke on a big platform.
Yeah, I hear you on that. But at the same time, I feel like he ought not to feel shocked that happened, since all eyes have been on him ever since that scandal. And for him to come out and say something like that, which people are obviously not going to like. And he's mega famous. Obviously someone's going to record and leak his audio. Yeah. I think he might have probably known better. I don't know. Yeah. But like, I don't want to get myself in trouble by coming out and be like, Louis the victim. I'm not going to go say that shit.
Well, but I guess that's how I'm coming off as Louis.
No. But like, I totally get it. Like I am against taking stuff out of context. Like in any situation, I'm 100% against that shit. And I think that is, that's really sad when something gets taken out of context and somebody gets blasted for it. And yeah,
something that, J-Mart mentioned right before I started the show. I told him you were coming on, and he said, ask Eric about the time that like some comedian said like a poor joke about China, and then the crowd kind of wanted to fight that person or something. Can you share that story? I like, because this kind of relates, like the Chinese audience maybe saying something that was so, or like just taking it the wrong way, or
actually, I don't even think that the Chinese crowd took it the wrong way. I think the guy on stage was being a fucking dick, and he should have known better. And these guys, I think the reason.
So what happened? Tell the story.
We were at this show, and it was a really small show at a restaurant, and there was a large table of like Shanghainese.
What kind of venue?
It was at Masse. It's like a restaurant with like seating for like, I don't know, 60 people.
Is this by 800
like
show?
That's right.
Yeah, right, because Masse used to not be there, but now they've recently, or not so recently, but they've been there for a little bit now.
Yeah, it's that one. And so we had like a really small crowd, like J-Mart and a few of the skate homies.
J-Mart was there.
J-Mart was there. And this was really sad because like I've been hitting him up to come to one of my shows forever and ever. I was like, you got to come out and check it. And he came on this one night, like him and Justin. And I think Nick, Dave.
Oh, Dave.
I don't even know what the fuck I'm thinking about. But they all came there and they watched this absolute disaster of a fucking show. Like there was only one table there, and it was this big group of people who were not listening, and they were having dinner and they were talking and making all this noise. And that one guy went up on stage, and I think he told a pretty offensive Asian joke. And I was like, I can't believe you fucking did that, because these guys are listening. And one guy got up and like started grabbing him, and yeah, I had to host the show after that.
Oh my God.
It was awful, dude. It was terrible. But hey, bad shows, that's part of the job. But yeah, I'm not going to put that guy's name on the podcast.
No, of course you don't need to.
You should have known better.
You never need to share names. I'm always just interested in the story. That sounds like that guy was just being a clown, and he didn't read the room properly.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, what did he? Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
No. You don't need to. That just. But I think that also speaks to like how maybe like comedy is still in its infancy here, and people are learning about it, and like that sounds like an interesting place to have a show. Like these people were eating dinner there. Or?
Yeah, I mean that happens all the time. I mean, like there's big shows and little shows. This was a little show at a restaurant, and that happens. I mean, like. At any restaurant show, you're always dealing with people who are there to eat and drink, because that's what you do at a restaurant. I'm always like, oh, sorry.
Right. Yeah. I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to do a set if I was a comedian, like at a spot, unless the people came to see me.
Yeah.
Do you feel this? You'll still do sets if it's like for, there's going to be people eating dinner, not necessarily there to see you. Or...
Oh, for sure. Because like I am very much in the very, very early years of a quote unquote comedy career. And I've got a lot of dues to pay before I can say no to
I didn't even realize that was a thing. I really didn't think that was an atmosphere, because I've never been at a restaurant and all of a sudden some guy, hey, I'm going to do a bit of comedy for you. I'll be like,
consider yourself lucky.
And I could just imagine in China, like that's the most like,
Shema.
Yeah. Just like, like cultures colliding in a sense of like a situation for that to be happening.
Yeah. It happens all the time, man. It happens back home too. Not at every restaurant, of course, but yeah, there are a lot of pub shows. Yeah, stuff like that where comedians, amateur comedians, semi-pro comedians just go up there and try to make it work and get a little bit of money. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to take it back to a little bit more of a timeline of highlights in the past couple of years you've been in Shanghai. And I guess we already talked about you doing open mic, getting into comedy. And now at what point does it start to be something more than just a hobby? Or maybe it's still a hobby. I don't know what it is to you, but for sure, I know you've done shows where you get paid and you travel. And so like, what's the evolution of comedy for you?
I want to hit more cities. I want to try to do more shows, bigger shows, but I'm still so early on in this development as a comic that I still need to write a lot more material before I can even do like a big show.
So what was like the first experience of traveling? I know you've done shows outside of Shanghai even. So what was that like, getting contacted, and what were some of what was that process like?
Yeah, because I started doing comedy with Shanghai Comedy Club, which is now the Shanghai Comedy Bunker, managed by Barney Rivera, and he hit me up and
is that offered, Cages? Shanghai?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So Shanghai Comedy Bunker, because the branding is a little actually misleading to me, because like Shanghai Comedy Bunker, I see the flyers and all that stuff, but then it's held at Cages. So I think that's good for people to know, because like people want to go out and see comedy. It's actually like a super fun alternative compared to just like going out drinking. It's like, dinner and a show in a sense. Like I think it's a super cool like form of entertainment that's underlooked.
Yeah, it is well hidden away in there too. Like a lot of people have been going to Cages a lot for like a couple years and didn't even know that there was this comedy room.
It's literally hidden in the back, like the door. And unintentionally, they close the door for purposes of just like, you have to pay to get in there / like you want to keep the crowd separate. But it is kind of cool.
That's like a nice little discovery, right? And they have better branding and more signs, bigger stuff to indicate the location of the comedy room now. But yeah, still that place is so damn big that like some people don't even go over there. Right? But yeah, back to what we were talking about before. Barney, he got me my first spot out of town. It was an opening spot for a touring comedian, Tom Rhodes. We went to Ningbo. And we went to one other place too. Yeah, we went down to Xiamen. Yeah, it was cool because I had never been to those cities. Yeah. So
that must be fun to go and experience like a new city traveling. I mean, I've done the same thing for work, video production out here, but like for the touring comedian, was he from China or was he like being brought in?
No, he's from the States, and he had planned out this whole like Asia tour. And I mean, I wasn't like making money off this. This is like me coming out of pocket just to have an opportunity to be on the same stage as this guy. Oh, for sure.
So you would pay for your hotels and that kind of stuff, and
Barney helped cover part of that. Yes, I didn't have to pay for everything. But yeah, I did get a bit of a stipend or whatever you want to call that.
Right.
But I mean, like, honestly, dude, for someone who's only like a few years into comedy to have an opening spot for an actual established comedian, that's the kind of stuff that you would have to scramble and fight for to get back home, like where it's really competitive, right? Like,
well, I think that speaks so strongly to what China is and the opportunity that China brings, because everything is so new here, and the ability to get stuff like that is why I've stayed here so long, like being able to work with brands and stuff like that. So I think that's super cool that you kind of took advantage of what's going on with China just in general, as the state that it's in, everything's so new. You're able to, kind of like, see an opportunity and go there. And I think that's cool that some people should understand is like, when they're fighting for their dreams, or you got to put in a little bit of your own money to make this happen. Like you're working, but yeah. So I think that's really cool that you went out there. And how did the show go? Like, what was it like? What's the audience like down in Ningbo or Xiamen?
They were all expat crowds.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause every city has that tight expat community, and they always show up whenever something comes to town cause like, they don't have much to do. I'm just going to say it. Yeah.
Dude, I've been down in Ningbo, and like, dude, I want to say like also Shanghai is not necessarily China. Like Shanghai is like a very special part of China that feels like its own thing. When you leave Shanghai and go to these other cities, it's like true China, and there's a lot less developed stuff going on.
Yeah. And I respect people who decide to live in those cities. I mean, they just have different tastes. They have different lifestyles than,
Of course,
than
and
what
there's
I'm used
also
to.
tremendous opportunity in those places too.
Oh shit!
I'm not knocking those other places at all. I'm just saying
You're
it's
totally
like
right. You can make so much money.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
it's just completely different from Shanghai is what I'm trying to say. It's a lot different.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
So
nice to visit those places. I visited a few cities. I've been to Wuhan for a show. I got to headline a show there.
okay.
I also went to. Oh, well, I got to be on a show in Taipei. Didn't headline. That was just like a showcase spot. Yeah, Ningbo. I got to go down to Hong Kong a while ago with Glenn Wool, this Canadian comedian who's based in the UK. Yeah, that's all the places I can think of right now. Probably a couple I'm forgetting. But yeah, it's been cool, man. I've been seeing parts of China that I hadn't really been to before.
And you've also been teaching English like as your primary job, right? Like that's what let's actually take it back even further. Like you're from Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get into Canada and something else that, how we met is through skateboarding actually.
Yeah.
So I always liked, if my big guest skates, I always like to ask them how they got into skateboarding. And so what was that like in Canada or how long ago?
Yeah. My answer is probably the corniest one you've heard, I'm assuming. I started skating when Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out on PlayStation back in the 2000. Yeah, but I didn't have a PlayStation. I had a Nintendo 64, and I got Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
I had it on Nintendo 64 as well.
Yeah, man. I loved that shit. My brother wanted to get a skateboard as well, so we both asked our parents, and they got us for Christmas.
Is your brother younger or older?
My brother's younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you actually don't have the corniest because you know what?
What?
What's crazy is Jay Meter actually started rollerblading before skating. He was a fruit booter before skating.
Oh.
Yeah, so even Jay Meter, coolest of the cool, goes to show there's no such thing as like a corny story going into skating.
Yeah, I never got to try rollerblading. Yeah, I never did get around to that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So N64, you got Tony Hawk's. I had that as well. The blue cartridge, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1.
Yeah.
Fucking legendary day when I got that. I was like, I went there with my buddy. Like we both got it at Toys R Us. Dude, I think I got so many people into skating. I actually got into it because luckily like my babysitter's nephew gave me an old board. I'm into skating. But for sure, so many of my friends got into skating from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Nothing wrong with that, man. It's not that corny.
Yeah, now I think of it, that probably got a lot of people's attention on
So
skating.
many,
I mean, how
dude.
could it not? It was such a big game.
Dude, it was massive. It was the first like mainstream platform for skateboarding to be on. Hands down, has to be. I mean, like there was the X Games. That was like, but that's not even necessarily mainstream. Like I feel like video games is like the crossroads between, an action sport and like a nerdy kid who plays video games and like kind of like merging cultures in a sense and just opening up doors for so many more people to learn about it.
Yeah, it's funny to think how video games, like the most unathletic pursuit ever, could get so many people into sports.
Because it looks so cool, man. It looks, maybe even football or basketball or hockey games.
Yeah.
Maybe those, like, that's just not something I know about. I know skateboarding closely.
Remember how on the N64, because the technology wasn't really the same as the PlayStation, the music was not like full songs. They just had like maybe like a 1 minute loop of each song.
Really? I never noticed that.
Yeah, if you go back and check it, they did not have the full songs.
Wow.
So if you're a kid playing Tony Hawk, you're getting this just like this like mind melting loop that just goes on and on. It makes you go insane because you never hear the chorus, right?
Yeah.
You never really get like the full song.
That's funny. My mom, my
So
friend's
shitty.
mom said like the same thing. Well, like I remember it now, like came back like a crazy flashback. Her saying like, I can't believe like you guys can listen to this music all the time. It's just like, it's just repetitive. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm just like little kid focused on the game. And now I'm like, wait, maybe it was super, super monotonous. That's too funny. But so you're playing Tony Hawk and you get the real thing and you got local parks, or what's going on up in Canada?
Yeah, I lived on Galliano Island when I first started skating, which is like a tiny rural community. There was no skate park. There was not even any like concrete there. I would skate on the blacktop at my school.
Okay.
And that was like the only place to skate. And that's where I learned how to ollie and maybe do a pop shove it.
Sure.
And then like, a year or two later, we moved to Vancouver Island, which is like an actual where they have
so you're West
urbanization and
Coast-
skate
West
park.
Coast sport, okay.
That's right. Yeah. From BC. And I just skated a lot in BC. Not like a lot. But I always was skating, and I was obsessed with skate magazines and videos. Like I had a subscription to Transworld.
Sure.
And it was back in the day when they had the thick magazines.
Yeah.
It would just like jam up your whole mailbox because they had to like fold it, like wrap
they
it,
were
roll
massive,
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those things were sick. And I used to like cut the pictures out, put them up on my wall. It was just, like typical skate kid fanboy stuff.
Sure.
Just like having fights with my friends about who's the best skater and like hating on kids because they rode goofy.
Yeah, man, way back. So did you stay with skating throughout your whole, like, was that like, for me, I feel like it was like a part of my identity pretty much, and still is my whole life. But for you, did you like feel that the same way, part of your identity, or?
Yeah. But it was weird because in my high school, everyone quit skating except for just a few people. So I was one of the few people who still skated, and there was just like a couple other kids who skated, and we hung out a bit, but like we weren't like a big crew or anything. And
No, I was the same way. Like skateboarding definitely came in waves, and my town where I grew up, it was the same way. You know, I was in a small group of friends who stayed with it. Like in elementary school, it was super cool, and if you were skating, it's awesome. But then like towards middle school and like early high school, it wasn't as cool, but I was like, I still have so much fun. And then your friend group becomes a little smaller, and you see who like really likes it. And
yeah. And I think that Tony Hawk Pro Skater was a big part of that timeline. Like, now I think of
exactly, it blew it up, and then all of a sudden the hype dies, and who's left standing?
Totally.
That's
like,
what I think it is.
for like a year, maybe 2 years after Tony Hawk Pro Skater, all the kids had skateboards.
Definitely, yeah.
And like Globe shoes and Chet 4s.
Yeah.
And then, they got bored of it, or they just gave up or whatever.
Yeah, kind of fall out. Yeah.
Like, oh, my knee hurts.
Yeah, this is not fun anymore, man. Yeah. So, what about college? Where'd you go to college?
I did a year in college, a couple years in college in BC. I was the kind of kid who was like, oh, I know what I want to do. I'm going to go do business school for a year. And I was like, I'm going to just not go to school at all for like 2 years. And then I went to a year in Victoria where I was taking like all these electives, a lot of like humanities stuff, history, English, psychology, philosophy, all that kind of stuff. And then I got psyched to go to Montreal.
Oh.
And I went there and I finished a bachelor's degree, joint specialization in English and history. Yeah.
Yeah. I went
really
to school.
useful degree, I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, your English has to improve to be a comedian. So
Sure.
and you know that vocab.
And I loved it. I loved being a student in Montreal. Like I still reflect on those years. It's like one of the possibly the best years of my life.
Oh yeah, Montreal is awesome. I went to school in Burlington, Vermont, 2 hours away from Montreal, and we would go up there before we turned 21 and have some fun weekends.
Yeah, when you're 18, right?
Yeah, because the drinking age is 18 and super fun. It's interesting that there is quite a little bit of a cultural difference. I mean, especially the language. Like there are people speaking like French Canadian when you go over there. And I think the west coast of Canada doesn't have so much French Canadian. Is that true? Or
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
Like the further west you go,
the less French it's gonna get. Yeah, because when we went over there, that was probably one of my first like cultural experiences. Like, damn, there are people like really not speaking English out here. Like I didn't expect it. And when you're younger, that actually does hit a little harder than we've seen it all now. Like traveled Asia, like,
right?
It doesn't get much more cultural than that, like India and Africa or whatever maybe. But
I felt that right away when I got there.
Really? So you felt it as well?
Oh yeah, because I was this corny West Coast kid who barely learned a word of French when I was in like middle school, and I'm showing up just like, "Hi, how's it going?" to everybody, and they're like, "Quoi?" Like,
Quoi?
Yeah, I think that's how you say what. Yeah, people were not feeling it. Like the fact that I didn't know any French. Like honestly, you should definitely learn some French if you want to go live in Quebec. I was just, as a student, I got away with it because it's like, hey, I'm not here to integrate. I'm just here to go to school. But like, you can feel it if you can't speak French. Like people are not into you. They're like, come on, man, speak French. Like this is Quebec. And I get it. Like I get it. It is part of their culture. And yeah.
Is Toronto part of Quebec, or is that a different?
No, Toronto's in Ontario.
Ontario,
which is the
right.
neighboring province.
Because I was going to say
Yeah.
Tang is from Ontario, so maybe it's not as gnarly. Because I don't think he speaks any French. Like,
But yeah, in Ontario is definitely more so than in British Columbia, because I think like if you want to get like any service jobs, for example, in Ontario, you are required to know French and English because you're adjacent to Quebec, which is the biggest province and I think the most populous province in Canada. So you're going to be communicating with French Canadians, and but I can't say for sure how
it makes sense
what
though that they would want to like the queebs, as we call them,
the queebs.
the queebs.
But they love that.
I bet they don't. they're,
Sarcasm.
I bet they're very proud of French Canadian, right? I think it's
Yeah.
a very super important part of their culture. No,
Yeah, and I completely like understand it because the tendency of like Western culture is to assimilate and do this melting pot effect, right? Like the English speaking North America wants Quebec to start speaking English and to just, stop speaking French already and to just sort of like do it our way kind of thing. And like, I really respect that they have deliberately maintained their cultural identity, which is really tightly bound to the language. And I can understand why they would want to do that, because when I was living there, it was one of the coolest places I've ever lived. I really loved the vibe that they had there.
right?
It feels quite like European and
Exactly.
a lot more.
I was just about to say it does feel European, and I think the language probably has a lot to do with that, more than we can really pinpoint down.
I think so. Like, and I'm not like super smart. I don't know a lot about how this works, but I do believe that the language is a huge part of it. Yeah. And I think that in my mind, it seems like, oh, why don't you just live like that, but speak English instead? It just doesn't seem to work that way. It is like I don't know, it's a European thing. And I do think that the language helps support that vibe. Yeah.
Totally agree. And something you just reminded me of is something that I heard, I think it's Jerry Seinfeld. He talked about how his theory on why there are so many great comedians from America, or just at least for sure English speaking, is like native English speakers in particular are super fast. Like the way they look at words and they kind of make jokes about wordplay is pretty unique. This is what he was saying. I don't know. And so, I don't know exactly where I was going, but I thought that was super interesting to think about, like, English speakers as kind of like the forefront of comedy. I don't know if you would agree or.
Yeah, that's a great point. I haven't done a whole lot of like reading on that. The only thing I do know is that English does have, I think, the largest lexicon, the largest dictionary. There's more words in English, I think, than there is in any other language. And
Really?
I think that does open the door to a lot of playing around. Although, English is the only language I know how to speak. So
Exactly. It's not
it
something.
would be ignorant for me to assert and
Exactly.
say like absolutely for sure that English is funnier than Russian or
Definitely,
French or-
definitely. And that's why, like, can't even really say for myself whether we do have the best. And that's what's so crazy is like there's other people doing comedy in other languages, and we'll never be able to hear those jokes. Like people within their own cultures making their own jokes, and
We're missing out.
Oh, maybe, but at the same time, English, I think, is hands down the most spoken language around the world. It's for sure the most international language, and it seems to be the language of entertainment, probably.
Yeah. That's how it is for now.
For now. Yo, but like with China on the come up, we don't know, man. Mandarin is taking over.
Yeah, that would be, I guess not in our lifetime, but it could
Probably not.
perceivably happen that they start speaking Mandarin in North America. That seems pretty far off, but my goodness.
But okay, so Montreal, you like, how long do you stay there? Do you finish college in Montreal or?
Yeah, and that's how I ended up here. While I was in Montreal, I had a professor who was the professor of one of my history courses. I took Chinese history, and then I took modern Chinese history with Tim Cito. Did you meet Tim?
Yes.
Yeah, you know Tim
I know
Cito.
Tim Cito from the North Face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course you know Tim Cito.
Yeah.
Right?
You met him in Montreal?
Yeah, he was a professor at Concordia University.
No
he was
way.
and he had a great job there. And
Shout out Tim Cito.
let me just like make this really clear for everyone listening. Tim Cito was the hottest shit at that school. Everybody was like, this guy is the coolest teacher. Like that's why I took the class, was because people in the history department wouldn't stop talking about how badass this teacher was.
No way.
And I don't want to sound corny or whatever, but he was like, they were like, this guy is a skateboarder. Like, like word was really getting around that he skates. And I'd never heard of a professor who skates before. And I was like, I skate. I'm going to go take class and we'll be pros. And so, but I took his class and I approached him after class one time and I was like, I heard that you skate. Do you want to go skate sometime? And it turned out that I was like the only student he'd ever had who actually skated.
Yeah. And I can just not push around, but also, skate at park. Flat ground, like
and
really
like,
skate.
Know who skaters are. Know what skating is about. Kind of like, because he told me that he'd been approached by people previously who were like, "You want to go skate?" And they pull out their fucking longboard.
Oh my God.
Like, we'll go pushing Mongo and shit.
Yeah.
So we skated, and like I made sure to work really hard in his class so that he would take me seriously as a student. And then
And what class is this again that he's teaching? Or
he did a Chinese history course.
Chinese history, you said that. Yeah, Chinese history. And
first one was like this crazy like survey, like the 5,000 years of Chinese history, like a sweep over all of that. And then there was another one that was modern Chinese history, which focused on the fall of the last Chinese emperor, and the timeline leading up to the revolutions and the establishment of the People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
And then, stuff in the 80s and, and then where we are today.
So you had a real interest in China before coming here, actually.
Yeah. It's funny because I took the class because I heard the professor was so fucking cool.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, China sounds all right. And I'm like, sure. And, but then I did get pretty interested in it. And, when I was about to finish school, by that time, like Tim was like my unofficial mentor. Like I hit him up and I was like, I want to go teach overseas when I finish. Where do you think I should go? And like, I already was like, whatever Tim says, I'm going to go because Tim is the coolest. And then he said Shanghai because it's like, I have friends there. I know where to skate there.
Yeah.
I could maybe help you find a spot. You'll have a good time there.
That's awesome.
And you'll get experience. And yeah, so
you were asking him for advice, and he said Shanghai.
Yeah, that's
because you had
Yeah.
the idea to teach English. That was your into China, like that's kind of what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to travel because I was so under traveled as a young person. Like I'd never been out of Canada practically. Well, I'd been to the States, but that doesn't count. Like I hadn't traveled, and I wanted to go live overseas.
went south of the border real quick.
Yeah, so I got really excited to go teach and live. Yeah, in another country. And so, Tim suggested here. And he even met up with me when I came out here. He was here, doing his Tim stuff, hustling with the skate brands and hanging out with his friends.
You know what?
So,
he actually, I think he has a strong relationship with Fly. Now that I come to think of it.
Yeah.
He kind of started that actually. I don't know if he started it, but invested and had some sort of role. Yeah, Tim, I should get to know, because I don't know Tim that well. I just know him because I used to work with him a little bit through the North Face, and he's had an interesting relationship with China, and I guess somehow knew enough to teach a course in history about it.
He has a PhD in Ming Dynasty Chinese history. Yeah.
How do you get
I know.
You go to school and write a paper about, and then you get a PhD? Like, how does that work?
No, he was at it for years and years.
Wow.
Yeah, like he really worked his ass off as a young man when he was. He told me that finishing his PhD took even longer than it was supposed to because his program supervisors had all this career stuff going on where they had to move around and like he stuck with it for like a long ass time. And like he was a professor though at a young age. Like he was my professor. I think he was like 34 or some shit. Yeah. I mean, so he was hot. Like all the girls, man.
Yeah, I was about to say he's not like right even now. Looks like a relatively young dude. So I like thinking about him I really had no idea he worked at a college campus. Like he would be the guy that everyone wanted to chill. He would be the cool. I see it in my head right now. That's so funny.
That's exactly what it was like.
That's awesome. What an amazing person to have as kind of a mentor in a sense. He's a good dude. So him to introduce you to China, I mean, that's a really good in to get over here.
I'm really stoked that I got to meet him, and I feel like it was kind of a lucky coincidence.
Yeah, of course.
That ended up going that way. And he's since then has totally moved on. He's not in academia anymore.
Right. Because I never knew. Now he works. I don't even think he might not work at North Face anymore. I think
he works
someone
at
said
Dickies.
Yeah. Charlie was saying Dickies.
Oh, he's probably making so much fucking money.
Yeah, no, but he's a smart dude, man. He deserves it. Like he seems like a hustler.
Yeah.
All right, enough about Tim. I'll have him on. I'll have him on in the future.
All right,
So
Tim.
so you moved to Shanghai. You moved to Shanghai and like that must have been a trip. Like you're moving over here. Like, cause I know when I first got here, I was like, what am I doing? I actually had anxiety getting on the plane. I'm getting like driving to the plane with my mom. And I'm like, geez, like, what am I actually doing? Like flying to China with no return ticket.
Yeah, I did exactly that. And I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have an apartment lined up. I had a booking at a hostel and I had Tim to like meet up with for a bit. And I figured I'll just figure it out. In retrospect, that was pretty nutty to try and do. But yeah, it all worked out eventually. I got like a few, entry level English teaching jobs. They were terrible. They're sending me to like all these different schools all over town. They're like delaying payment. Their employee turnover is ridiculous. People are quitting or being fired all the time. But yeah, that was all part of the experience.
Of course, I went through it too. I think more than half expats, I would imagine, maybe, I don't know, a lot, eventually teach English. And if you like, I had terrible experiences towards the end with the school that I was teaching English at. And it just sucks that you can have one bad experience and then kind of like that becomes your experience with teaching English. But I think it worked out for you. So did you bounce out of that at one point, or you did, right? You move on from that particular. Yeah.
Like I started in like training centers.
Exactly. Yeah. Training centers are, you got to be pretty okay with what's going on. Cause they don't treat you like a true employee. You're just like a piece of meat to them, these training centers.
Yeah. Working at a training center and working at a school is like two completely different jobs. Like they both count as English teaching, but like they are very different experiences. I'm working at a Chinese international school now where students are studying to, get sent to a school in the US. And that is its own unique experience as well. It's got its ups and downs, but I'm really into it because, first of all, it gives me the ability to support myself and be comfortable while I'm developing the comedy stuff. And also because I think I'm really good at it.
Sorry, folks, we're just cracking some
We're
beers.
just cracking some beers here, yeah. Oh my gosh, you're the best.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers.
So yeah, what I think is cool about your situation is like you got hooked up with a proper school. And I think that can make such a difference for, this experience of teaching here.
Yeah, because after teaching in training centers for a while and then moving into an actual school and being surrounded by people who aren't bullshitting, it's like night and day. Like when you work at a training center, I'm not saying it's the same at all training centers.
Yes,
but
I am too as well, for the record. There are good training centers, but 90% of them are like just trying to take money from people. Yeah,
like I used to work at a training center for a while and you could feel the bad vibes. Like the people who worked there, it was so weird. Like there was this one guy who obviously hated his job so much. Like he would be like swearing and like clenching his fists and like pounding his keyboard and like scrapping up papers and punching the printer, like straight out of a movie, right? Like this guy was mad.
That sounds like an amazing character for a sitcom. Like,
yeah. I was like, why don't you quit? What are you doing? It's just like disturbing because you're like, this guy must have nothing else to do, or like he's like, what is he afraid of if he quits? Like why are you even here in the first place? If you hate this job, you obviously hate China. You'd see the same people complaining about the Chinese staff or about the stuff that's happening on the street. It's like, yeah, this is China. Why are you here if you hate it so much? And you'd meet people like that a lot at these like kind of training center jobs.
Definitely.
Or you'd meet people who are just fucking weird. Like they look like you don't know what they're doing in their off time, but it is not normal.
Dude, did you hear the story about, oh my God, there is a guy who was on the 10 like FBI's most wanted list in America, and he was found 10 years later in China as a English teacher.
Was he a pedophile or something?
Maybe, yeah. Like this guy had done it all.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude, it was insane when the news broke out that he's been caught and he's being extradited back to the US.
Thank goodness.
It was crazy to hear but it makes you realize damn, how many others are there out there right now?
No shit. And the saddest thing is that story is 100% believable.
Yeah,
You
dude.
just told me that. I was like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Dude,
Where else would you?
I looked it up. Like reliable sites were posting about this news, and I was just like, Jesus, because I heard it just like you right now. I'm like, I believe it, but really, and I'm like, and then I went up
Really?
and saw multiple sources of this story of like this guy being extradited, and yeah, apparently
Send him back. Send him back.
like a student. The story was like a student was a Chinese girl who was at an education center for teaching English her whole life in China. She eventually is teaching in the States, and she, while in the States, she goes to college there or something, sees the most wanted list, sees her old teacher on the most wanted list.
Awkward.
And she hits up the FBI and she's like, you're not going to believe this, but he was my English teacher in China. I just thought that was fucking amazing.
That's funny.
Dude.
And as long as no one got hurt, that's funny.
Well, in China, I hope no one got hurt. I mean, like, obviously he did some bad things in America. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Damn.
Wow. Yeah. So that's the kind of people that you meet when you're working in training centers, man. Like what other kind of people did I meet? Yeah. Just the common theme was people who are not into it, people who are not taking the job seriously for this reason or another. And then going to, a school like an international school or a Chinese international school, for example, and working with people who actually care and love what they do and are making efforts to improve themselves. That was, a major shift for me.
Definitely.
So I'm really excited to be working with people who aren't bullshitting, people who don't look like psychopaths.
Yeah, people who actually like want to be at their job. It makes such a difference for me. Like I'm in like semi bit of a rut right now where I don't have much structure to my day, and I just remember like because I'm freelancing, doing this, that, and the other, like, which is all good and great. But I think I am realizing like I do like having a consistent group of people that work around me and kind of motivate me, and you can take that for granted a little when you're around them. But for me, I have fond memories of a good team around me. So that's super important to have.
Yeah, I totally hear you because I am the same. Like when I have downtime, I'm so bad at structuring or regimenting myself.
Yep.
When I have time off, I'm just like this thing that just sort of exists and just like I don't sit on the couch all the time, but I just sort of stand around.
Yeah.
Like I'm weird, man. When I'm by myself, I'll just stand on my balcony and just sort of stand there, look at my phone a bit, and then like just look off the balcony again, and then maybe sit down and look at my phone and order some food. I don't know.
Maybe you were one of those English teachers at the.
I'm like a sentient plant or something. I'm just like what.
Oh man,
I play video games. I don't know.
Yeah, but skateboarding in China, because like something I wanted to talk about is you were kind of, I don't know about tight knit, but you were for sure more in the skate scene than you are in the past couple years. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's something that I noticed, and I think it can be a good thing. The main topic of discussion is kind of like drifting out of the skate scene into the comedy scene, becoming a new person. Like, was that something that you think happened to you, or like?
No, I totally think so.
Yeah.
Well, because I never used to skate much on weekdays anyway. I would just skate like on weekends a little bit. And that was like super fun. But I also started doing more shows on weekends. Yeah. Taking more time to try and write material on weekends. Spending more time. Trying to take more of my free time to use to develop comedy related stuff. Right. Doing a bit more stuff out of town. But I mean, like, I still definitely love skating, although I haven't skated much recently. I think another major factor is probably just me getting out of shape and being a lazy piece of shit. Okay. I gotta say the biggest factor that contributed to me skating less recently was probably not comedy. It was the fact that they closed down LP and they closed down the center, and I still hate the motherfuckers who are responsible
Yeah.
for that. I don't know who they are,
Yeah.
but I hope they burn. It's like, I mean, like now the main meetup spot is Qibao, right?
It's Qibao or Binjiang, and Binjiang is not even the main one. So
Okay.
it's like, but Qibao is probably. But there's a new
Yeah.
park that opened up, Moore Park, which I don't know if you've seen video clips of it. Or,
Okay, is that the indoor park?
Yeah, new indoor. I mean, it's hella far. It's like Hongqiao Airport far.
Jesus.
But
yeah.
so I mean, for the casual skater, it's not exactly a good meetup spot.
Yeah, so that's the problem with me is like I always was kind of the casual skater type of person, and I loved LP
Yeah.
and the center because I could skate to them. I wouldn't even like take the metro. I would skate all the way there, and I'd be like warmed up by the time I got there, and I just loved
Yeah.
doing that. I would skate there, and I'd skate the whole time I'm
Dude,
there.
wow, you're bringing it back for me, man. Like I did these skates to LP. You know where we are right now. We're like
Yeah.
5-10 blocks away from LP, and
Yeah,
J Mart and I would. Oh man, now do these fun little cruises. We would like skate lines each other, like trying to like ollie up curbs, and
Yeah.
just like have fun on the way up. And damn, that has gone away now that we don't have the center and we don't have LP anymore.
yeah, that was like one of my favorite things. I would throw on my favorite music and I
Yeah.
would just rip through these like weird back streets. I would know every like manhole that I wanted to ollie over,
yeah, yeah.
every corner and stuff. And it was such a pleasure skating there. It was almost as much fun as the session itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm just so lazy that like when I consider the prospect of going to Qibao, I'm like, oh, it's already 2 p.m. It's going to take like an hour to get there. And like, yeah, that's
I don't
how
even like that
sadly
spot.
unmotivated I am.
Yeah, but I don't even like that spot. I hate those ledges. I don't like,
Same.
dude. They're rounded. Like they're so round. They're not like even close to like they're a very unique ledge, which is cool for a spot. If
Yeah.
you want to go skate it as a spot.
Yeah.
But like as a warm up like location where you go and chill and like it's the spot. It's not the spot for me. I haven't been out there in so long, and I really do not like going out there.
Same. I don't like that rounded ledge nonsense.
Yeah,
And, I don't like getting rolled off.
that ain't comfortable.
I want a mani pad, dude. Where's the mani pad?
Yeah.
And like a little stair set, like a 3-stair.
Right. LP was so perfect for that.
Yeah, the only thing LP didn't have was a mani pad. I really would have loved to have that.
Well, the center had that. I guess that's what you're thinking. The center had a good mani pad. Right in the back.
In the back.
Remember, like the as the cars would drive by, and there's a
Oh, like the little step.
yeah, it was very, very.
But it
very-
was broad enough to be a mani pad.
It was very, very small, but it was super fun. I had a
and
good
the
time.
little ledge going down the side.
That
thing was
little
so
d-
easy
down
and fun.
hubba was so much fun.
With
yeah.
the kink at the bottom.
Yeah, the little
you-
kink. Yeah,
you feel
yeah.
all gnarly, like coming through the kink. You're like, yeah,
Dude, yeah,
3-stair.
Jay would kill that spot, like front blunts, just like
Oh
nose
my God.
grinds, and yeah, that dude. Yeah, I
So many
do
bangers.
miss those, and I get now that I think about it, that is a good reason to kind of fall out of it, but yeah, I just think it's kind of like cool. Like it seemed like it was a good opportunity for you to find something new, like comedy, like fall into a new scene, and I mean. I don't know if I have a reason to do that, but I definitely enjoy meeting new people. And I feel like I've talked to my friend Eric Thorbeck about this. And I think he's really good at like segmenting himself from the skate scene. Cause like I know
Yeah.
people that just get so locked into the skate scene, and it kind of like puts blinders on them, and they don't like, they think it's so cool to just be in just the skate scene. And
Yeah.
I just think there's so much value in broadening your horizons, and like the comedy. That's a cool comedy scene. Just be a part of something
Yeah.
different and have fun with it.
I totally agree with you. It's kind of a bummer when you only hang out with one small circle because you're missing out on other things, I think. And then you get this sort of clique mentality too, where like you look at other people as like outsiders or something.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
you
so
can't-
unhealthy.
You can't hang with us
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I feel like I've fallen into that before too.
Oh, me
Like,
too. Yeah, I think I luckily I've learned from it. Is what I feel.
Yeah. The funny thing is now, like I'm doing comedy so frequently that I've practically fallen into that with
Just with comedians. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I haven't kicked it with you in how fucking long?
It's been a long time, man. But like, but I was so psyched that one time. I wanted to bring this up at some point. That one time, it was a while back at a show you were doing in I don't know, the Comedy Bunker, and a bunch of the skate homies came out. And that felt like such a cool moment when like kind of your worlds collided, maybe.
Oh man, yo, that was one
You
of the
remember
best
it, right?
nights of my life.
That was so much fun.
That was
Were
my
you
big
I think
night.
you were headlining.
I was headlining.
Exactly. That was like a big. That's why we all really showed it. Like, oh, so Eric's really in this. Okay, let's all
man.
roll up.
Oh, that was such a good night. I am so blessed that everything lined up that way. I mean, there was a good crowd. You guys were there. Like my coworkers were there. I mean, like everyone was there, and it was so dope to see you guys roll up. I got to like bounce a few dumb jokes off you guys.
Exactly. I thought it was
so cool about
dude,
it.
It felt so awesome, like to be a part of the show, like in a fun way. Like some of the other comedians and you were like making fun of skaters and DJ. Remember DJ?
Yes.
There's someone like
Yes. Oh,
yeah, that was good times.
that was amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that for sure. That was really, really fun.
Oh yeah. Any other shows coming up?
Let's see. I'm doing a show on November 2nd
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing two shows, a show on November 1st and a show on November 2nd. I think November 1st is going to be at Cages.
Okay.
November 2nd is going to be at a bar on Shinjalu called Jobu. I have to double check that actually.
Okay.
Because I've never been to this place before, but I got booked on there just recently. Besides that, I'm getting excited to go to Bangkok in a few weeks.
Oh fuck yeah.
Because there's an annual comedy competition that they do there, the Bangkok Comedy Competition. And that's on November 9th,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm excited for that too.
Awesome. If people
look
wanna,
up Jobu, Jobu.
yeah. If people want to find out more about how to find your shows, or what's the best way for them to reach you or like follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me at Eric Alex Stand Up on Instagram. I think you guys can spell that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, also like you can follow comedy groups in Shanghai. You can look up the Shanghai Comedy Bunker. You can look up, oh man, it's crazy how so many clubs are like closed now.
Yeah.
I mean, Comedy UN is now doing open mics again.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like clubs that are doing regular weekly shows, it's just Shanghai Comedy Bunker right now. Yeah. But also, there are weekly open mics at a lot of good spots. You can check out Goat. They do their weekly show every Wednesday. Check out Real Shanghai Bar on Yan'anlu every Monday for a really good mic. Roadhouse every Thursday night. That's on Beijing Lu every Thursday.
There's nights to go out for comedy. The scene is taking off.
Oh, dude, it's so active. Like you can go up every night, multiple times in a night if you actually want to.
That's great. And like that's what I find so cool. Like when I hear other people go on, I talk about Joe's show all the time, but he has comedians on and they talk about going up multiple times in a night and like working out your material. Like that just seems like, I don't know, I get so anxious, but the more times you go up, it must be okay and like fun, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just never thought of it as like you can go up multiple times in the night. Have you ever done that? Do you go like different multiple stand-up open mics maybe just to like?
Yeah, I have done that a couple times. Actually, like as we speak, a couple of my friends are doing 3 mics tonight, 3 shows. There's a open mic at, I'm going back to the plugging the mics.
Do it. No, man.
There's a mic at My Place Ruin Bar, which is at Xinjia and Jiaozhou.
Okay.
And there's also a weekly Russian comedy night where they also feature English speaking performers. That's going to be at Marseille tonight. And there's also going to be the Goat open mic, which is at the old location of KFK, which is underneath Cartel on Xiangyanglu.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, that's all happening in the same night.
Wow.
So yeah, conceivably you could go to all 3 and be on all 3.
That's crazy. What time does it go on tonight? Until it's like the latest one tonight.
Yeah.
Do we have time to go after this? I kind of want to go.
We possibly could. Yeah. There's a show at 8:30 at Goat. Starts at 8:30. Yeah, that's plenty of time.
Awesome.
And I think the Comedy UN one at My Place Ruin Bar starts earlier. They're all aware of each other. They try not to conflict.
No, that's awesome. Like a real culture and community is developing here.
Yeah, because they all know each other. Like
so
they're like
dope.
first name basis kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
Also, another thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap up is doing comedy. Have you done comedy outside of China at this point?
Yeah, you know, I had a good year for that. This year, I was back home in Canada for like over 2 months, and I got to be on more shows than I've ever done before. Like I got I just did open mics like a year ago when I was back home for the summer. But this time I actually had like some footage, to send to bookers to get them to actually give me a spot on a real show. And I got to do a good few shows, actually, a couple in Vancouver and a couple in Victoria. I even went down to LA to visit some friends there and got on a few like really small shows, but in LA. So I got to do stand up a bunch of times back home and in the States this summer.
Do you find it much different than doing it in China? Like, I imagine there must have been a higher standard from the crowd, expecting more, maybe.
Yeah, it was a bit harder. Open mics were a lot harder, I feel like. But showcases went quite well. I didn't do any of my China stuff, like, because it's not going to connect. No one's going to get it.
Well, that's the second thing that I was going to bring up is a lot of comedians, they'll start their material based around where they are, local stuff that the crowd can relate to. And I'm not going to say easy, but it's kind of, if you find it quite easy in China, like the stuff to make fun of that all locals, you know what I mean? Like it presents itself, I imagine, quite well. Yeah. And that material is not going to work in America, where they have no idea what Lao means or like what IE is.
What's a DD?
Yeah. What's a DD? Yeah. So like, that must have been interesting to, work out material that you have to target towards a Western audience, maybe.
Yeah, right? No, because it's actually really hard to write material that will connect anywhere in the world, because it has to be something that's good and yet something that's still original and something that's relatable, and something that's, like unique, something that's really you. And yeah, that's hard because like when you're living in China, it's so easy to lean towards making China jokes because that's your experience, that's your life. And that's the kind of stuff that you can speak with the most emphasis, the most passion. You really believe what you're saying. But if you take something like that and you take it home, no one's going to get it. Yeah. But if you can think of something universal, man, you've really struck something.
Yeah, that has to be. I guess that's what all comedians are probably striving for is to reach like the most universal thing that everyone can connect to and relate to. And do you have like a process for writing jokes, or do you like working it out? I imagine you do that at open mics, but when you're writing it, is it observations or?
Yeah, I'm like all observations pretty much. Like, and I definitely think that I've stumbled onto like every joke that I've ever written. I've just like accidentally been like, oh, that's kind of funny, or like, oh, that's interesting. How can I talk about that? And I definitely write the heck out of it. Like I'll write it and then scrap it and rewrite it and I'm always trying to like chop it down so there's fewer words. I feel like that's the biggest downfall for me when I go to a mic with a new joke is I'm talking too much. Yeah. And then like the more you do it, the less you need to talk. You realize all the words you don't need. At least that's how it works for me. Yeah. Just my own experience. But yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people think, like comedy can be so easy because it is just you're up there speaking. You're just using your mouth. Like everyone can do it. Go up there and speak. And so when people don't realize, like it's actually a lot of work that goes into formulating the correct sequence of words to make a joke. Like even as you just said, like taking out words is something I've heard other comedians do as well. Like just take out like only like a couple words, or just timing, or so many things can like make or break a joke.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also agree with your point about how people don't quite understand it or quite notice it. I mean, it blows my mind when I'm talking to people and they're like, oh, so you bring like all new material to every show, huh? It's like, dude, no, like any of the jokes I told that were at all good, that took like weeks to make that one joke work at all. Like you have to try again and you have to tweak it a little bit and you have to, and it's like, dude, do not expect me to come with all new material like a week later.
And I think that's how the internet has kind of fucked up comedy a little bit because a lot of people are like famous comedians are complaining like they'll go to a new city and then they'll say some stuff I saw that on YouTube, and it's like, damn homie, you weren't supposed to see that. Like wait for my special, and that's when it comes out. Like that seems to be the formula for most comedians is like once it's on their special, then they're not going to repeat it necessarily again.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's how it works generally. Yeah. If it's on a special, it's done. If not, you keep using it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, it's a bummer that it's so easy to capture and share all this stuff. And what really bums me out is I love memes. I think memes are hilarious. And I like it when tweets become memes because I love to read a funny tweet. But that format has like robbed so much material from one-liner comedy. Like, like funny tweets are just one-liner jokes.
Right.
Or two-liner jokes or something like that. And whenever I read one of these, I'm thinking, dude, whoever is on this Twitter account could have told that at a show and it would have been so fucking funny. Like that's genius.
So you're saying it's robbed comedy from like having a good stand-up comedian in a sense.
That's what I think. I mean,
that's a really interesting way to look at it.
Cause like nowadays I think when you think of a funny one-liner, there's a very high chance that it's either already been done in a tweet or that someone else is going to make a tweet of like the same kind of.
But maybe it's a way for them to work out material too.
True. Yeah. But like you said, once it's out there on the internet, no one wants to hear it.
Then it's like, it's been done, like ABD.
Exactly.
Already been done. Like,
you're not going to get any props for that.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to look at it.
That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. I think social media has definitely changed the way that everything goes down, from skating to comedy to sports or whatever. It's a different time. So, and you were telling me you don't really use social media that much, or you're trying to do a better job at it.
Yeah, because I just was never a huge fan of social media.
Yeah.
I know I have kind of like an old guy mentality where like I go on social media and I see people posting selfies and people posting pictures of their brunch and stuff like that. And I used to always just be like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to look at this.
Fall on the wrong people, man.
I mean, you're right.
And that's my next point is like, that's what's so cool about social media. You can turn it into whatever you want. It is very easy to fall into the like, because that's the most basic way to use social media. Posting a selfie, posting a photo of your brunch. That is the most basic way. But you can get super creative with it and like make so much cool shit. And that's what I would inspire you to do, because like it's an amazing opportunity for you to put your comedy and like get creative. But it is so hard. I'll give you that like maybe it is a bit of an energy suck when you want to focus your energy towards something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I completely agree that it's a powerful tool. And I've been trying to get more engaged. Yes, definitely. But it's been quite a learning curve. And I have found that it is a bit of an energy suck, because once you start posting more regularly, then you start to feel like a pressure almost. Like, I have to keep this content coming and I can't let it be boring, and I have to make it exciting for people. And shit, if I'm going to post anything, I have to be doing shit in the real world. Like, what am I doing right now? Like, I'm not even the kind of person who likes to take pictures of anything, and you have to do that to have an Instagram.
Right. So, it's like almost like a catch-22. You have to live in the moment. But if you want to live in the moment, but somehow you have to also capture it, put it on Instagram to make it look like you're living in the moment.
Yes.
It's not real. Yeah.
There's a fakeness that's part of the game. Because when I was in Tokyo last weekend after this roast battle, it was me and my friend Gene George, who also won his roast battle. We had a great time hanging out. And the whole time we're like playing video games at the arcade. We're exploring these weird streets. I'm whipping my phone out. I'm like, Gene, smile kind of thing. Like, I felt like a douchebag. But after we were done, dude, he was looking good on social media. He was looking real good. And I didn't have shit because he didn't want to take any pictures.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was fun. I took some selfies though. Yeah, it still counts.
It's definitely like getting used to it a little. I mean, for me, the way I use social media is the way I'm comfortable. It's not about me at all. Like, I rarely ever will post something of me. Like, the only time it's ever of me is like someone filmed me skating, went out of the way to like get a clip, and I'm hyped on it. I want to post it on Instagram, feel good about it. Other than that, it's about my photography. I like sharing like what I've shot. That's cool to me. And it's very like just the way I use it. And then the second way is the Shanghai Observed account, where it's like a curation of funny stuff about China. And that's what I'm saying is like, you can use social media in different ways where it's not just about you. And you know what I mean? Like, and I think there's plenty of room for you to figure something out.
So yeah, about Shanghai Observed, I haven't like scoured social media that thoroughly, but where does Shanghai Observed rank in like the sort of expat humor sphere of social media accounts. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it must be pretty high up there. I mean, like,
It's
you've got a lot of
pretty-
followers.
Yeah, the followers are there, and I think it's because a lot of more. I can tell you my following is mostly from Americans and Europeans, actually. Not so much Chinese-based expats, I would imagine. Just the stats.
That's what I was thinking. You must
Yeah.
be connecting back home.
Definitely.
Right?
I think a big reason that it grew a following is a lot of people that visit China, they'll maybe search Shanghai and it comes up like, oh, this is hilarious. And like, there's two types of people: the people that live here that can connect to it, or the people that have visited and go back home and show their friends, like, this is what I saw. This is like, because like they didn't see exactly what they saw on my Instagram, but they saw one moment that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then the whole Instagram makes sense. After you see that just one moment that was like, what is going on? Then the whole Instagram makes sense. And that's why you can relate to it and want to continue to follow it.
So you're managing the Shanghai Observed Instagram account, and you're getting these pictures through the WeChat group, or
Yeah, tons of different WeChat groups. It's amazing. Chinese social media is so different from a Western social. I guess let's just say WeChat, because I don't actually use Weibo or Douyin.
I've never looked at Weibo in my life.
Yeah, it's
no clue what that is.
It just doesn't attract me. But WeChat is the way it's so weird, WeChat, because like, for people who don't know, WeChat is like such a one in all. Everything you can do on WeChat is like, it's your WhatsApp, it's your Venmo, it's your kayak.com for buying train and plane tickets. It's like
You
your
can top
social,
up your phone.
yeah, like it's your, you pay your bills with WeChat if you want. You have moments like you do with Facebook on WeChat. Like, it literally does everything. So the way media is shared, like, I'm in a bunch of these WeChat groups, and they're all focused towards the genre of what I would say like oddities in Shanghai, or China rather. So I'm a part of those groups, and basically I'm taking from those groups and reposting them on my account. But it started out as just like a daily photo project where I was just like shooting what I thought was cool. And I just wanted a challenge of shooting every single day something new. And then it evolved to, because people really liked the funny stuff, the weird Chinglish on the shirts. And, and that's what it turned into. Yeah.
Oh man. And yeah, this is such a rich source of material. You're never going to not see something crazy.
Definitely.
Yeah, that must be a lot of fun. I mean, like, I can't think of, are there other like major social media accounts that are trying to hit this like,
what I'm doing,
funny expat experience?
Well, I mean, like Mama Hoo Hoo does a really good job at actually.
Do they have an Instagram though? Like,
but it's like they're in their original content, so they're actually creating content and making videos and scripting, and it's very different than mine, where I'm.
Yeah, my friend Jorge Castellanos like writes for that show.
Oh, awesome!
And he wrote the Lawai Park episode.
Dude, that was a good one.
It was like the best episode.
Yeah, and actually, that's something that I've wanted to get more involved with, is like creating original content. And that's why I like the podcast so much, is it's original content. Like, this is mine, like I own it. And I feel a lack, like a small lack of pride for Shanghai Observed, because it's just other people's content. I'm reposting
curation,
it. Like, don't get it twisted, people. I know what I'm doing. It's not my content. I'm not. So that's why, like, yes, like maybe I come up with decent captions and like I do a good job at curating. Like, I can proudly say that, but I do lack pride when it comes to like, it's not necessarily all of my stuff. I didn't take the photo all the time. I didn't take the video all the time. And that's something that I want to get more back into. So that's where I clap my hands to Mama Hoo Hoo, who creates content, and this dude Donnie he's like the Shanghai.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that guy's he's a real winner,
dude.
I heard that he has like an amazing job. I can't remember where it is, but like he's working for like Vice or something.
He works for Barstool.
I'm sorry. Oh, Barstool.
Yeah.
My bad.
He works for
Sports.
He works for Barstool Sports, and he's making videos. I actually might start to work with him a little bit, because one of it, like,
where is he at now?
Like, he spends like, I think, half of his time in Shanghai, other half like kind of just traveling around Asia or the world. Like,
dude, what a boss.
Dude, he made a really good piece about the Las Vegas mole people. I didn't even know this was a thing.
I've never heard of
I'll drop some knowledge for you right now.
Yeah, here we go.
You ready? In Las Vegas, I mean, obviously it attracts a ton of degenerates who are gamblers and alcoholics. Like let's be real.
Yeah.
So it attracts those people, and then a lot of people fall into these holes of drug addiction or gambling addiction. And under Las Vegas, they have sewers and tunnel systems, and there's people that just live in these sewers and tunnels. And he goes down there and he interviews the people and just is able to share some stories about why they ended up in the tunnels. And he partners with this, I forget the exact name of the organization, but what they do is try and get people out of the tunnels and back into like rehab or, you know, back on their feet in a sense.
Wow.
Really cool piece. He does some like easier ones, like, you know, Shanghai snack food in Family Marts, like how it's so different. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do with making original content.
Man,
is that something
like
that
such a cool hustle?
Yeah, is that something that interests you at all? Like, you know what? We actually very briefly, I messaged you like way long ago. I just was like throwing out the idea, like, would you ever want to create content? Like,
because you showed me
this dude,
clip.
David Dobrik.
Yeah, and I was like, that looks like fun. I wasn't feeling him that much. I was like, he's fun.
No worries.
So
like,
I was like, but like, I mean,
it doesn't have to be
where
that.
would I even start with that? I mean,
know.
that would be fun. That would be super fun. I've always thought about that. I'm aware that I'm not like a really fun on camera person. Like when I'm dealing with people,
script stuff. We can script stuff. Like there's room for this.
I really like your enthusiasm. I think we should talk more about this actually, because like I'm realizing now that this is a wicked opportunity.
We're in China.
To work with the manager of Shanghai Observe in the real world. Dude, we should do that.
And I have a bit of a platform to like kind of, you know, like at least like it's a jumping point. Like maybe not 100% of my people will be like interested in that, but some of them will, and it could build a YouTube channel. And dude, I'm and we don't necessarily need to be on camera. We can be writing for people that want to be on camera.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I mean, wow. No, I like the sound of that. I mean, it'd be great to have something else to work on too.
Exactly. I always want to make content, and I struggle exactly where you are. Being on camera, I'm not like I tried to vlog at one point.
Yeah,
fucking disgusting, man. Like holding a camera up in front of you and just like was not about it,
dude. I'm terrible at it. And people who are good at it, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, props to them. Like
you have to kill a piece of yourself because you have to fake it. You know, when you're on camera, you can't be genuine all the time. Yeah,
you have to fake it, and you also have like people around you looking at you, like talking to a camera, and that for me, I just get inside my own head, and I just can't do it. Man.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I start getting really self-conscious. And you know what? Like doing stand-up is kind of the same thing. Like you're going up there and you are kind of faking it but it's different. It's a fun
100% different. Like
it's a fun experience
because like you are a performer. I mean, fuck, man. Like vloggers, I guess you could say are performers. Like,
oh god, don't say that.
There's just something. Okay, like,
but you're right. Yeah,
yeah.
They might get that in their head.
But there is just this negative connotation about being so contrived that you can hold the camera up to yourself and you're that cool. Or I'm not exactly sure, but it'd be interesting.
Vloggers. I say the word with such bitterness.
Yeah, man. Maybe we should wrap this up.
Yeah, man.
We could talk off air about this new video idea.
This new project. Yeah. It all started right here.
Right here on the pod.
You guys heard it.
But one more time before we wrap up, where I want more people to be involved in the Shanghai comedy scene. So how can they follow you, and name one more time where they can go to see comedy? Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram at Eric Alex Stand Up. That's ERIC Alex Stand Up. Yeah. And I'd say like the main club doing regular weekly shows right now is the Shanghai Comedy Bunker, which is at Cages at Jiangninglu and Wudinglu. But there's also a few productions that are doing regular shows like monthly or bi-monthly. You can look up Hey Now. That's HEI, Hey, as in black. It's African American theme. Yeah. And the producers are African American, and they're putting on this sort of the black cultural comedy experience. Those shows are really good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So you can look that up. Also, regular weekly open mics at Roadhouse, at Shanghai Comedy Bunker, at Goat, and at Massey. Yeah, look these places up. You'll see listings for the weekly open mics. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Eric, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. All right. Peace, guys.
See ya.
Boom. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this podcast valuable, there are many ways you can support it. You can rate and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to this channel and like the video. Or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my website. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. Also, if you enjoyed the intro and outro music, it was made by my brother, Danny Greenberg. You can go and check out his beats at soundcloud.com/estoric. ESTORIC. Okay, that's it for now. Peace.